In Dallas, Texas, 3 shots were fired at President Kennedy's motorcade.
That's what we were told. Most Americans never believed Lee Oswald was the lone gunman, for excellent reasons. In fact, there were at least 6 shooters who fired from 8 to 10 shots or more who are identified here. We have, finally, the solution to the greatest murder mystery in history, laid out for the world to see, proof after proof after proof. Photos were faked, the body was changed, x-rays were altered, the home movies were fixed. 15 experts contribute to a 529-page book with 1,037 photos and diagrams in black and white and color.
Hi, this is Gary King. If you'd like JFK, who, how, and why, and would like to support the new JFK show, then go to patriotradiobooks.com. That's patriotradiobooks.com.
Welcome to the new JFK show number 179. We'd like to give a shout out to old Lance and his group. They've decided to call themselves the Next Generation Researchers. And we're all for them, and we'll give them as much help as we can. In fact, I'd like to have them on as a guest sometime real soon. So, all right, Larry is rolling over the JFK community once again with the LIRING project, and we'll get started right away.
You want to flip the hourglass, my friend.
Yeah.
The LIRING Project, Part 1. LIRING, Mexico City CIA station. In our previous post, we offered an intimate and personal account written by Sylvia Duran in 1978, which describes the abuse she endured at the hands of the Mexican police on behalf of U.S. intelligence agencies as a result of her casual encounters with a Lee Harvey Oswald at the Cuban consulate on September 27 and 28, 1963. Before we continue, it's worth noting there's ample evidence of Lee Oswald being impersonated in the months and weeks before the assassination. The Bolton Ford incident, the Irving shooting range incident, the Ralph Leon Yates incident, the Emerson Varner Price incident, the Robert Vincent incident are but a few that come to mind. Some of these involved an individual who made a point of attracting attention to himself, which later would be easy to recall or report by witnesses. She described how the Mexican police wanted her to admit she had several amorous trysts with a Lee Oswald after she helped the man fill out and file paperwork for a transit visa to Cuba, which would eventually land Oswald back in the Soviet Union.
This is second there, Jim. Several amorous trysts, and Lee Oswald was only there for a couple of days.
I know, it's ridiculous. So, apparently they hopped right in the sack as soon as she laid eyes on him.
Every night.
This is ridiculous, Larry. Her description of the man she met was at odds with the physical characteristics of the real Lee Oswald. They were supposed to accept the allegation she would immediately go to bed a few times with a stranger whom she described as short, unkempt, ungainly, loud, boisterous, rude, and belligerent. Nothing remotely like the real Lee Harvey Oswald. Moreover, Counsel General Eusebio Azcu had to threaten this man with forceful expulsion from the consulate if he did not vacate the premises immediately. I guess they wanted to haul him out of bed with Sylvia. This individual did not speak any Spanish, period. Previously, obviously not the same man Judith Baker describes in her book, Me and Lee, where she writes, he said he could get around in Cuba with his eyes closed, though he needed to work on his Spanish. Later, Azcu would state that the man killed in the basement of City Hall on 11/24/63 was not the one whom he interacted with on that occasion. Well, that's a good thing for him to make that clarification, Larry.
Yeah.
The Edwin Lopez, Dan Hardaway HSCA report, also known as the Lopez report, was suppressed for many years. There's a good reason for that. In this report, Lopez and Hardaway set forth in detail their review of classified documents at the CIA, which could not conclusively prove that Lee had even been to Mexico City, let alone had sex with Sylvia Duran. For example, on page 369 of the Lopez report, during that interview, Mr. Askew alleged that the man Jack Ruby shot in the Dallas police station was not the same individual who had visited the Cuban consulate in 1963. Was Sylvia's account accurate? When we compare, we find just about all of her allegations are also confirmed by Lopez Hardaway in their 411-page report, which he could not possibly have had access to in 1978. But Lopez and Hardaway went further in their investigation and determined that the Elena Garro de Paz allegation of Lee being invited with two other beatnik-looking guys by Duran to a twist party was also of dubious credibility. They make her out to be a real sleazeball, Larry.
A twist? Chubby checker going on?
Yeah.
Wasn't Oswald supposed to have been a loner? Note, Elena Garro de Paz deserves a blog post all to herself, which will be forthcoming. Enough for an introduction. For the
Elena Garro de Paz was Octavio Paz, his wife, and they were married for many years, and both of them were two of the most influential playwrights and authors in Mexico in the 20th century. And they had a daughter, and her name was Helena with an H, Garro. Okay, and there's a very interesting story about the two of them on the afternoon of the night of the assassination. They went to the Cuban embassy, and they started yelling at the Cuban embassy. I mean, they created a scene there, you know, yelling, and that Fidel Castro was because both of them were rabid anti-communists, and that Fidel Castro was responsible for the assassination, and that Cuba, you know, was going to pay for this, and I mean, really, really rabid and really incredible stuff that they did on the same day of the assassination, on Friday the 22nd, 1963.
Nice points, Larry. For the observance of the 50th anniversary of the Warren Report, the AARC celebrated a conference in Bethesda, Maryland, where Lopez and Hardaway presented some of their experiences working for the HSCA and Robert Blakey, specifically the Lee Oswald Mexico City angle of the assassination investigation. Scroll.
Yeah.
Fresh out of law school and looking every bit the hippie type, Lopez and Hardaway spent 18 months at Langley. At one point, they were even supplied with an office there. They were not allowed to photocopy any documents, only take notes. And these had to be verified by a babysitter who monitored their every move. With a report containing 1,240 footnotes cited from primary source material, this has to be considered a staggering achievement, perhaps the most important in JFK research history. At one point, Hardaway described how some documents were inadvertently produced by the CIA, which only served to whet their appetite for more information and investigation. They knew they were onto something.
That's a very interesting point that Hardaway makes in that video, and I would like to encourage some of our viewers to watch that. It's about an hour, a little more than an hour long. And both of these guys were very young at the time. Their hair was down to their shoulders, you know, afros, you know, and the way that they describe it is quite anecdotal, Jim. And, you know, this whole thing of them being so young and being, you know, when they first got there,
go up to the image, Gary. Go up to the image.
Yeah, the CIA, the people there that received them, thought they were just, you know, hippies, dope smokers, so they didn't even worry about what these guys were going to do there, you know. And this thing about them not being able to photocopy anything, that having to take notes, and when you look at the thousands and thousands of pages of documents that they reviewed, for them to produce this report, 411 pages, is just staggering. I'm talking about, you know, you're not able to, you have to put everything in writing and then go back and create the report. And I think that's just an incredible achievement by both of them.
Yeah, and it suggests that because they were so young, you know, they were still full of piss and vinegar and didn't know that they were supposed to suppress information the government didn't want out. They're even willing to pick up on documents inadvertently produced by the CIA rather than immediately returning them. I mean,
Yes.
it sounds like they were actually doing their job because they
Yes.
hadn't been suppressed and molded into being, you know, obedient
That's right. They were not beholden.
servants of the state. Yeah.
Yeah, and Hardaway says, you know, they would accidentally give us documents, and we would look at those documents, and we would just go, "What?" And then the person who was in charge of giving him the documents would come out and say, "Where did you get that?" They say, "Well, you gave me the document. I'm reading it, you know, and I want you to produce this document that's mentioned here in this document, you know, and follow the lead here, the whole sequence of documents." And so that's how this, and for 18 months, I think that's a long time. That's a year and a half. And so,
yes. Lopez and Hardaway discovered documents that mentioned a CIA asset with the crypt LIRING 3. The Mexico City station did not hear about the Oswald Duran affair until July 1967, when a CIA asset, LIRING 3, reported it. This is hard to believe because the alleged Duran-Oswald affair was all over the Mexican newspapers at the time, as it was rumored that a confession had been beaten out of Sylvia by the Mexican police. One would assume the Mexican City police station monitored all media in Mexico. Here's the document. Yeah. Do you want me to read the document?
No, not really. Just see the middle there where it says LIRING 3 continued at Sylvia Duran. I think that's right there in the middle.
Okay. Gary needs to scroll down.
Yeah, I've got it.
Larry's controlling the screen.
Oh, Larry. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. LIRING 3 continued that Sylvia Duran informed him that she had first met
Oswald.
Yeah, when he applied for a visa and had gone out with him several times. She claiming she went out with. So this is all fabricated. Liked him from the start. She admitted she had sexual relations with him. Insisted she had no idea of his plans when the news of the assassination. Broke. She stated that she was immediately taken into custody by Mexican police and interrogated thoroughly and beaten until she admitted that she had had an affair with Oswald. She added that ever since then, she has lost all contact with the Cubans, particularly since her husband, Horacio, was badly shaken by the whole affair, went into a rage, and forbidden her to see them. She added she felt certain that her telephone was tapped by the Mexican police, or more probably by WOFAC.
WOFAC, that's the new crypt, and we're gonna talk about that in a minute, because that is important. That's a new crypt that's never been studied. It's not in any of the listings or anything, you know, at Mary Farrell and AARC. So go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's good. Let's see.
Since was an expensive proposition.
Since living was an expensive proposition, Mexicans wouldn't be able to afford for so long a period.
Yeah, that's good. Now, here's where the plot thickens, because we need to focus on who this LIRING 3 was, and we're talking about that previous document. That was the only document that existed on LIRING 3. Now, with the new release, we have at least 1,000 pages of documents on LIRING 3, and the story that is contained in those documents is something that just blows your mind, because we've always heard the excuse from the government that a lot of these documents contain means and methods that cannot be divulged. Correct? Right. So, and that's always their excuse. But these documents that they have released on LIRING 3 do the complete opposite. They give you very detailed. I mean, there's so much detail, Jim. I'm talking about on a day-to-day, hour-by-hour basis.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
And we're gonna see a lot of the documents and the redactions that are in those documents, and sort of like try to put this whole puzzle together.
All of the allegations contained here are nothing but pure hearsay and would never be admitted in a court of law. The net result, however, is that LIRING 3's handler has thus inserted himself into the JFK assassination saga. His identity is Carlos Llorando Del Mar, and he deserves our utmost scrutiny, as well as his handler, Wallace B. Roughton.
Remember that name. That's a very important name, and it's not even in any of the pseudonyms or cryptonyms that have ever been released and reviewed by, like I said, Mary Farrell and the AARC.
Larry, this is incredible. I got a message today from a correspondent saying this was an alias of David Atlee Phillips.
Well, let's not give it away yet.
Gerardo Del Mar's 201 file number was 201798301, and his handler during most of this time as a CIA asset was one Wallace Roughton, an obvious pseudonym. According to the new documents, Gerardo was born in Mexico City and came from a middle-class family. Here is Roughton's bio reported on LIRING 3.
Yeah.
How much shall I read?
Yeah, he's got another AKA there, Alberto Zarate Vidal, and we're going to see how that came about because it's just really, really interesting, and it only comes out in the new documents. And at the end of one of these PDFs, that's why they have made this so difficult to study, Jim, because a lot of the really good information is towards the end of these PDFs, and since they're not searchable, we've talked about that many times here.
Right.
Yeah, you have to go page by page, literally.
Is there part of this you want me to read?
Yeah, well, yeah. We need to,
really
study this.
Yeah. Subject was born in Mexico City, 1930, of a middle-class family. Subject grandfather was a well-known
textile merchant
who served some 12 years as president of the Chamber of Commerce. At least one of Subject's aunts is currently well-to-do and the owner of several apartment houses in Mexico City. Subject has at present little or no contact with his family. At the age of 15, Subject left home to join the Mexican Navy. Subject has commented to Roughton that his childhood was not particularly happy and that his mother and father separated apparently when he was in his teens. It appears likely the Subject left home as a result of family dissension. Subject states that his desire to travel and see the world was very strong at the time he joined the Navy. Inasmuch as the legal age for enlistment was 18, Subject had to have his birth certificate altered to show that he had been born in 1927 instead of 1930. As a consequence, all of the Subject's official documents now show his birth date as 1927, including his passport. Subject served a 3-year hitch in the Navy and visited nearly all the ports of Mexico and many of Central America. Subject specifically appears to have been in the quartermaster branch as he learned the rudiments of navigation and ship handling. When he left the naval service, Subject entered the University of Mexico and took courses in archaeology and anthropology for the next 2 years. Subject simultaneously developed a strong interest in painting and sculpture, and over the next 5 or 6 years studied under such masters as Rivera and Sequeira. Well, that's really remarkable.
That's right.
Subject was married in 1950 at the age of 20 years, actually 20 years, to a young Mexican woman from Leon, the GTC, and during the next 10 years had at least 4 children by her. He divorced his wife about 1960, just prior to his departure for Cuba, but he had not been on good terms with her for several years prior to the
divorce.
Then
about 1954 to 1960.
Okay. Subject worked in the Mexican government social service among the Indians, the southern states of Mexico. Subject attributes some of the tension that arose between him and his wife to this employment venture. His comment to Roughton that his first wife wanted to live a quiet, normal life in Mexico City and was unwilling to share with him the hardships of social work in remote areas of tropical Mexico. During this period, Subject gradually developed his own style in painting and began to establish close contact with Mexican art circles.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I mean, that's
fairly
elevated culturally.
That's right.
Subject went to Cuba in about 1960 to join the revolution, apparently as a result of his increasingly leftist political sympathies. He did a relatively large amount of painting and mural work during his 4-year residence in Cuba, while at the same time working in the Ministry of Labor and Education. In about 1961, he married a Cuban woman of Chinese origin from Santiago del Cuba, and the following year a girl child was born to them in Havana. Subject was told Roten that he had very little contact with his first wife since his divorce and pays no alimony. He added that his father, however, has continued to take an interest in his first wife and the children of his first marriage and has helped to support them financially. During his stay in Cuba, Subject developed close friendship with many Cuban revolutionaries, particularly Arnold Rodriguez, whose wife worked with Subject in the Ministry of Education at the time when Arnold Rodriguez was serving at the as Minister of Labor. Subject returned to Mexico City in 1964, which is, of course, after the assassination, with his new wife and child, whom he had naturalized as a Mexican citizen. By this time, Subject had become a professional artist, but supplemented the rather modest income he acquired from the sale of his paintings by teaching art privately and in Mexican public schools. His monthly income during 1965 and early 1966 did not exceed 3,000 pesos.
Wallace B. Round, I think the detail in this biography is just unbelievable. You know, how was he able to get that much information on Jurado is just beyond me.
And do we know this signature? Can we have we compared it with other signatures, Larry?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know exactly
where we're going.
Yeah, right. I haven't, but the more the information that's going to be reviewed here tonight is just unbelievable. I just wanted to say that this Routen actually met Jurado at an art exhibition, and that's where the initial contact was made in that type of setting, where Routen, just started to talk to him, and he started to ask him, about his background. And when he found out that he had been to Cuba, Routen, told him that he wanted to establish business ventures in Cuba, and that he needed somebody to go back and forth. So that's, how this relationship, cements itself at the beginning. And as it develops, you're going to see that this is just go way, way beyond the asset handler relationship, as we're going to see here in a minute. Now, here's a cable that gives you a little bit of information. Now, once they've got this established with Carlos Jurado, and it's just basically here, his wife, Miriam, that's the Cuban Chinese woman, and she had actually been employed at the Cuban embassy in Mexico.
You better read this, Larry. I can hardly make out the words.
Yeah. After the assassination. Until November of 1966. So his wife actually works in the Cuban embassy, but after the assassination. But she also becomes a player, and we're going to see how they even give her a cryptonym, and describes her here. And so this is sort of like documents that are established, how the context came about. So we can continue here.
Did you want to read part of the cable or no?
Yeah, I already did. You can continue here. So what?
Yeah, so what's exactly?
No, I meant, did you want to read that cable, Larry, or no?
No, I already did. We're here right here.
Okay. So what exactly was the LIRING project? The latest release of documents offer a trove of information on LIRING 3. In fact, so much it could redefine what happened in Mexico City. Scroll. Yeah,
I just want to read this point number 1 here. You see the mouse pointer? Station extremely interested in LIRING 3 operation, which appears to have considerable potential. Okay, and then we go on down here, and we see a lot of redactions. Okay, and we can go on down here, right here, according to here we go.
According to the new documents released, the LIRING project was an operation that recruited Mexican nationals to infiltrate and disrupt communist socialist organization in Central and South America, the old domino theory. One of these organizations of keen interest to the CIA was the FAR, Ferras Armadas Rebeldes. I'm sure I'm massacring that.
I'll get that. Fuerzas Armadas Rebeldes. And I'm going to just click here. It goes to Wikipedia. And right here, you can see the flag of the FAR and how long it lasted. And it's sort of like an overview of what it was a guerrilla organization established in 1961 and lasted until the peace agreements of 1996. And anybody who wants to really investigate and find out what this FAR. But the point of the FAR of here is that this becomes an operation of the CIA where they actually send agents into Guatemala to infiltrate and to try to disrupt these movements. And later on, we'll see that they were not really even that well organized. But
Larry, we just can't let any other country run its own business, can we? We have to stick our nose in and assassinate their leaders and manipulate their politics and bring about coups. I mean, it's just a disgusting history.
Yeah, I know, Jim. And don't forget that one of our major players here was responsible for the Jacobo Arbenz incident in Guatemala, where he was forced to into exile. You see that that person who was involved in that at that time was actually David Atlee Phillips. And he even boasted how easy it was for him since he was a master of propaganda. And don't forget that Atlee Phillips was also an actor, a great actor. And
right. I remember him saying that they were able to take over countries without any effort.
Right.
Almost effortlessly.
Almost effortlessly. I know, I've seen that video, and it just, mind-boggling. And he was completely fluent in Spanish. And he was a jet setter. He was always traveling to Europe, to Montreal, to Brazil, South America. So, once you start to insert him into this whole thing, it starts to really become clear, what this whole operation was about. So, Fuerzas Armadas Rebeldes in Guatemala was just one of the entities that they were trying to, to affect, so that this communist thing wouldn't spread, throughout Central and South America. Now, like I said here, Fuerzas Armadas Rebeldes in Guatemala promoted the Marxist-Leninist philosophies and threatened to follow in the footsteps of the Cuban Revolution. I think that's the point here that needs to be taken. Now, here
we can't have that. We can't have that, can we, Larry?
Yeah, of course.
What that means is they threaten to put the interests of the nation ahead of those of the multinational corporations.
That's the last thing you want to do.
That's right. They threaten to cut down on the profit margin by exploiting the natural resources of their country, which made them the worst of the worst.
That's right. Sugar, bananas.
Gold Pineapple Company. Yeah.
Now, these cables here describe a venture into Guatemala by LIRING 3, by Jurado, because at this point he's already working for Roughton, and the relationship has already matured to the point where I think Jurado already knows that he's actually working for the CIA. He's not that dumb, okay?
Yeah.
And here is, for example, since LIRING 3 was only able to obtain a 48-hour Guatemala visa, FAR reps asked him to recross into Mexico and meet them again the night of the 20th of September at a point on the Mexican side of the border on Pan Am Highway near La Mestilla, Guatemala. LIRING 3 did as told, was led across the border black and driven. I don't know why black, and driven to Guatemala City.
I think that means secretly.
Okay. By a succession of vehicles. During all legs of trip, second vehicle was used well ahead of one driving LIRING 3 to guard against roadblocks. I mean, this is real spy thing here.
Yeah.
In Guatemala City, LIRING 3 is taken to a house on the 29th Avenue, occupied by a woman introduced as Vicky. told to stay there until contact, which occurred 23 of December, when Octavio and Falcon returned and escorted him by car to while on Transoceanic Highway beyond Zacapa. There, LIRING 3 introduced to Pascual and Salvador. So basically, what he's doing here is he's working for the CIA and he's trying to infiltrate these Guatemala guerrillas, and these guerrillas are being very, very careful as far as taking him, and having him meet people and passing certain tests before they even allow him to get involved with these people. And later on, because we don't have time for that tonight, but later on we're going to see that he was actually thrown in jail for 6 months because the Guatemalan police found out about this, and like I said, that's beyond the scope of tonight. But later on, maybe some other time we'll talk about his incarceration there in Guatemala. But this what we're trying to set here, Jim, is how important this LIRING 3 becomes, and the control under which he was. All right, and what he would do to fulfill the objects, of the objectives of the agency here, and since he has inserted himself into the JFK assassination thing, we need to learn more about this guy, and not only him, but his handler, Wallace B. Roughton.
What this reflects, and I've noticed this in other contexts. A lot of these high-level CIA guys are totally hands-on. I mean, they're right there in the middle of an op. They themselves, they're high up in the agency, but they're right there doing the dirty work themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now I wanted to show you here. Okay, for example, this reaches all the way to Venezuela, because here we're talking about Venezuelan rebels in Caracas. Okay. So the scope of this operation, is quite large here, and again, look at these redactions. If we're talking about something as inconsequential as trying to infiltrate guerrillas, why all these redactions? And I'm thinking that the person that was involved in this is somebody that they really wanted to hold back, to hide from us. So. And here, the most important goal of the operation, however, was to travel back and forth between Mexico and Cuba for the purpose of gathering all kinds of intelligence for the CIA. And we're talking about all kinds of intelligence. We're talking about economic, social, media, everything that was going on in Cuba. And that's what, and the CIA, once after the Bay of Pigs and after, the assassination, they were still trying to find out what was going on in Cuba, so that they could, proceed with all their operations, with the Cuban exiles, and trying to get back Cuba, and to see what kind of sentiment, the Cuban people had towards Fidel, if the revolution was really accepted by the majority of the people, which we now know was, okay, and how the CIA was going to try to get Cuba back after this. Obviously, we know that Operation Mongoose and all that, that went on. Because Cuba was such an important part of this whole thing. And by the way, the acronym for Cuba is P.R. Bruman, P. Bruman. And whenever you see P. Bruman, they're actually talking about Cuba. Okay.
Wow, that's amazing, Larry. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. JFK show number 179.
In Dallas, Texas, 3 shots were fired at President Kennedy's motorcade.
That's what we were told. Most Americans never believed Lee Oswald was the lone gunman, for excellent reasons. In fact, there were at least 6 shooters who fired from 8 to 10 shots or more who are identified here. We have, finally, the solution to the greatest murder mystery in history, laid out for the world to see, proof after proof after proof. Photos were faked, the body was changed, x-rays were altered, the home movies were fixed. 15 experts contribute to a 529-page book with 1,037 photos and diagrams in black and white and color.
Hi, this is Gary King. If you'd like JFK, who, how, and why, and would like to support the new JFK show, then go to PatriotRadioBooks.com. That's PatriotRadioBooks.com.
All right, welcome back to the new JFK show number 179. We've got more documents. You wanted documents, you got the documents. Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, I just want to highlight here point number 2, the fact that LIRING 3 is not aware of his WOFAC connection, meaning Rauten's connection at present time outweighs the value which would accrue were an attempt made to make him knowledgeable. He performs clandestinely for Rauten, and he is actually attacking priority targets. Okay, notice the importance of this LIRING 3. In this way, he works against the target with a clear with conscience, and his left-wing sentiments are not threatened. Now, it's at the third point here. The operation is moving, however, towards eventual full recruitment of LIRING 3, but is moving slowly in that direction because of the political and social beliefs of subject. One advantage of this false flag recruitment of this individual at present time is the fact that he is able to enter the target area without fear of capture and exposure as an enemy agent. We're talking about his travels to Cuba.
And look at the use of the word false flag there.
False flag.
Yeah, I know. That's why I put it there. I knew
it's a new word.
Yeah, it's good.
I knew I was going to get a reaction on that.
Yes.
Yeah, under the present plan of operation, he believes his work actually is aiding the revolution, which he believes in from an idealistic standpoint. You know, in essence here, what Rauten is trying to do is just trying to trick him into working for him and actually, hey, this is your revolution, these are your ideals, whatever. And to, at the same time, what's going on in Cuba, all right? I want to know all about it.
Yeah, if nothing else, this document right here proves that our government is capable of false flag operations.
Yeah, there you go. And I want to just point out the who signs this, Willard Curtis, because we're going to come back to him. But actually, see, it's not him who signs. It's a surrogate for, see, Frank, so-and-so. And that's really important because we're going to take a look at the significance of that coming up. Now, Jim, notice
above the introduction of an unknown crypt, WOFAC. LIRING 3 not aware of Wotan's WOFAC connection. Below LIRING 3's initial crypt sheet with agency plans for this individual and his wife Miriam Chike, who went by the cryptic LIRING 4.
Yeah, right. And I want to focus there in the middle. Full details of use. Can you see that?
Let's see.
Right where it's
contact.
Right. That right
assessment.
There. Yeah.
And use in an unwitting capacity to furnish information on Cuban economic and military
requests.
Yeah, there's a missing letter. On activities in general in the Cuban embassy and consulate in Mexico City, Mex City acronym, and to spot persons of possible interest for Cuban ops. Of course, should development results warrant, consideration will be given to seeking operational approval for his use in a witting capacity, meaning knowing what he's doing, against the same targets, especially through his wife, LIRING 4, an employee of Cuban consulate in Mexico City.
Okay, this is the actual document that establishes his cryptonym. Okay, if you see at the top here where I have the mouse pointer, subject Carlos Jurado del Mar, okay, and here's his cryptonym. This is the document that establishes it.
It's LIRING 3.
And it gives you here some boxes. Is the government interested? May be shown during investigation. No. CIA interested may show during investigation. No. Is subject aware of U.S. government interest in him? Yes. Okay. So this is a whole report. This is a report that establishes, his joining the CIA as an asset, as an informant, and it gives you the right here the file number 201-798-301, and this is a very important document because it shows the exact moment in which he is recruited and given a cryptonym. Okay, now here's an interesting one. Here's an interesting one because this is a Havana report, and I think we really need to read this one carefully.
Here's a typical Rwanda report. LIRING 3 told Wallace Rota on 14 December 66 he'd heard in Havana on a recent trip. He returned next 5 December that Fidel Castro had recently caused arrests of 11 members of the editorial staff of Grana newspaper. L3 labeled those arrested as members of, quote, Red Guard, unquote, which has criticized Castro for his recent speech regarding Cuba militia irregularities and difficulties. Criticism reflected in columns of Granada and brought about arrest of 11. Broughton asked L3 for idents of those arrested, but latter could not supply except to say one was husband of his friend, Victus Cusa, not further identified. Rutan had asked L3 to discuss arrest with Ishao Suar del Paz, order obtain more details. L3 stated he had discussed internal Cuban affairs with Suarez and later told him Fidel Castro experiencing difficulties accomplishing objectives because of bureaucratic clumsiness, party underlings, and unbelievable inefficiency. Cuban diplomatic service. Suarez told L3 Castro required delegate important and sensitive tasks, delegate to his close confidence to assure accomplishments. In order, he had to, use his most trusted aides to get things done because the others were not incompetent and so forth.
Well, this is a mole. This is a mole going to Cuba and reporting back to Roughton of what's going on in Cuba.
Right.
And that is exactly what LIRING 3 and LIRING 4 are recruited for.
Yeah.
And to go back and must have gone to Cuba maybe 100 times, for the CIA and brought back information. And because don't forget that there was no way to get there, everybody had been kicked out of Cuba, the embassy, obviously that's where, most of the intelligence comes out of, the embassy. And so this was their only way of getting into Cuba and getting information by recruiting Mexican nationals who, like we mentioned before, Mexico identified with the Cuban revolutions, and it was the only country where flights were going back and forth, at least in this hemisphere, and to Cuba and to Havana. So Mexico never broke relations with Cuba. And that's why this is so important. It's the only way that the CIA could go and infiltrate their agents into Cuba and then throughout South America. Okay, now you can continue here.
The Jurado-Roten relationship is only now being studied in depth, and some of the revelations offer an intimate view of asset handler interaction on a day-to-day basis. A prime example of the control exerted by the CIA over Jurado Delmar can be seen in this forged driver's license obtained by Jurado Delmar in the state of Coahuila, with the intervention of a corrupt judge who was also helping him obtain a false passport.
Yeah, and this is a really interesting, and like I said, I found this at the end of a PDF, I think on the last 2 pages. And P. Bruman is at the top, that's Cuba, all right? And it says, false documentation obtained by LIRING 3. Forwarded under a separate cover and single copy as a false driver's license recently obtained by LIRING 3 via a corrupt judge in the state of Coahuila, who is also helping him obtain a false passport. Again, this is signed, or at least, not really signed by a surrogate, Willard C. Curtis. Now it's another guy. It's Raymond Frudge or something, or Frage or something like that. We'll take a look at that in a little bit. But you can see the compartmentalization already here, Jim. And now here, separate undercover is a copy of the license. Okay, so this is the first time that we see a photograph. This is the first time ever. Okay, and this is the first time ever published, a photograph of Carlos Jurado del Mar, also known as LIRING 3, also known as Alberto Zarate Vidal. And this is a forged license and done, on behalf of his handler for whatever reason they needed him to do whatever, they wanted him to do whatever assignment. And also, as mentioned, passports, so that he could go and infiltrate and go back and forth to Guatemala, Central America, whatever, Cuba, and bring back information for Wallace Roughton. Now, here's where it gets really, really interesting. Go ahead.
This passage, extracted from an evaluation of LIRING 3, was written by Rhoton himself in 1969. Rhoton, by the way, refers to himself in the third person.
Yeah, just the underline. Oh, okay. I guess, yeah, no, you can go ahead and subject, yeah, and his political, yeah, you can go at the top.
Is left of center with a history of revolutionary activity in Cuba from 1961 until his return to Mexico in 1964. Subject has insisted to Rhoton that because of his existentialist philosophy, he can never permit himself to join any organization, including the Communist Party, although he has given moral and material support to revolutionary movement both in Cuba and through Mexico. Subject has confessed his disillusionment with many of the revolutionary leaders in Cuba and with all the Mexican leaders, remarking that sooner or later the real revolution will come to Mexico to eliminate the corruption and injustice that prevails throughout the country. Don't we wish the same thing would happen here in the USA?
Yeah. Well, Mexico's always been famous for that corruption, you know, rampant. You know, so
well, I think we're reaching the same plateau. Subject, however, feels that in the meantime he must live under a more practical philosophy of daily life and is willing to make the necessary compromises to assist Rhoton in his business affairs. Subject has shown no reluctance to exploit his friends and even his wife to be of specific service to Rhoton, and can on numerous occasions volunteer to do so with Rhoton's approval. This appears to Rhoton to be a reflection of his existentialist conviction that his philosophy gives him freedom to choose without dependency, obligation, or justification. What's he serving her up? Is he serving her up as a sex object?
I'll let you, because you're the philosophy PhD and everything. I think this is something right up your alley, Jim. And
well, this is this is not exactly analytical philosophy. This is existential. This is kind of philosophy of life sort of thing. But
yeah, they're the kind of guy who's going to let somebody have their wife.
So it would appear.
Right. But the important thing here is what's underlined in red, and that's where we're going to go here now. Okay.
The following is extremely relevant because it reveals how far Waldo Del Mar, a.k.a. LIRING 3, would go to please his master. Subject has shown no reluctance to exploit his friends and even his wife to be of specific service to Rhoton, and has on numerous occasions volunteered to do so with Rhoton's approval. He's lending out his wife to Rhoton.
Well, you'll see now. You'll see now.
Could it be possible that his remarks regarding the supposed Sylvia Durand-Lee Oswald affair was an assignment given to LIRING 3 by Wallace Rhoton? If so, why did Rhoton wait 4 years after the assassination to defame, smear, and slander Durand's character? Rhoton had arranged to rent an apartment which would be used as a safe house for LIRING 3 clandestine meetings. Instead, Gerardo began using this apartment to bring in women for sexual escapades, a fact that was confirmed by electronic surveillance of the apartment. According to Rhoton, this could also be used to blackmail Gerardo. Boy, they weren't missing a trick, were they? We need to scroll down a little more.
This is called hardball, Jim.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that going around.
Yeah. Now,
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
One adverse effect of this effort on Rhoton's part has been that Subject began to use his
safe house
apartment for amorous twists with one of his art students, an apparently wealthy Mexican woman who has now in effect become his mistress, as revealed by technical surveillance from an IP in the same building set up and run very effectively by Medbury. I mean, this is a long time ago. Just imagine how improved they are today.
And important surveillance of the apartment. Okay?
Right.
That is so important because what we're going to see in a minute is completely related to this and to Sylvia Durand. Okay, you can go ahead here.
Subject has revealed the name and address of this woman to Rhoton in connection with the establishment of a P.O. box, which could be used as a drop for communication between Subject and Rhoton while the former was in Cuba, but he has not to date told Rhoton of his illicit relationship with a woman. This development can, of course, serve as a potential control over a subject and can be used in any future.
Blank. That's a redaction right there.
Teacher.
Blank examination.
Yeah.
Sexual examination?
Whatever.
Well, it's something like, interrogation, really. But on the other hand, may lead to complications in subject personal life and create hostility on the part of his wife, should she discover the philandering of the subject. She might likewise tend to blame Roten for subject conduct. For this reason, Roten has made every effort to maintain good relations with subject's wife. She has already confided to Roten her concern over subject's recent moodiness, as stated above, in the hope that she will turn to Roten for help in the event she feels her marriage is in jeopardy. Consideration is also being given to the possibility of breaking up as discreetly as possible. Subject's affair with a Mexican woman in the event that it becomes more serious. Technical surveillance of the tryst will continue to provide useful information in this direction.
Very important, because if that apartment is under surveillance, okay.
Yeah, where's the picture of Sylvia?
They should have had tape recordings. They should have had photographs, etc., etc. Okay, go ahead.
Of Lee and Sylvia, were they doing the hoochie coo?
That's right.
No, you'll see who.
All right. The next document shows information contained in a memo supposedly written by Chief of Station in Mexico City, one Willard C. Curtis. At first glance, one would say, aha, there's your smoking gun. Documented proof that Sylvia Durant slept around with many different men. There is little question that Luring 3 sees the opportunity given him by the sudden appearance of Orozco on the scene to cover vis-a-vis his wife a few days of misbehaving, instead of proceeding to
Tapachula
to receive from the FAR new contract instructions in Mexico City. As an awkward arrangement, to say the least, Luring 3 remained at the safe house he uses in the capital to receive the visit, as indicated by
live feed. That's another cryptonym that we've never heard before.
By live feed. Berta Wissinger, his regular mistress, Sylvia Duran of Lee Harvey Oswald fame, and possibly a certain Yolanda, who appears for the first time in this operation and whose phone number is not in the station reversed Mexico City telephone directly. Pinned down on the fact that he was in Mexico City during the period of 19 to 21 July, Luring 3 admitted that he was, but felt that he had to tell another lie rather than admit his misbehavior. This lie was that he did not want to appear dependent on Sergio Valdez in the eyes of Routen, and he made his first meeting with Orozco more intriguing by inventing the trip to Tapachula. To add credence to the Tapachula story, Luring 3 previously asked his wife to impress Routen with her concerns for him, telling Routen that he had disappeared for 3 days without telling her where he went. This she did very convincingly, with much sobbing and crying.
What we're establishing here is that this guy, Luring 3, Jurado, not only was he was doing all these things, for Routen, but he was enjoying the perks of having an apartment paid for by the CIA, and where obviously he was receiving, his lovers. But here's where it gets interesting, because this is a document, and we're going to look at a little bit more specifics now on this, where they insert Sylvia Duran, and they make sure that they say of Lee Harvey Oswald fame.
Right. If Carlos Gerardo Del Mar, Luring 3 safe house apartment was bugged and under surveillance, would it not have behooved his handlers to make sure photographs or tape recordings were preserved to document Duran's promiscuity? The only problem, the report is not signed by Curtis, but by a surrogate, when Raymond A. Fadger could be Fudger. This station believes that, go ahead. This station believes that.
No, this is just here. What I wanted to focus here is on Willard C. Curtis. Willard C. Curtis, because once you start going into that rabbit hole here, Jim, this is what is really, really interesting, because this pseudonym, and who did this pseudonym Willard C. Curtis belong to? Well, according to Jefferson Morley and reported by John Newman and Bill Simpich at arclibrary.com, he is none other than Winston Scott. And Winston Scott, we know who Winston Scott was, chief of the Mexico City station,
right,
for many years, from the
right.
mid-50s all throughout the 60s.
Right.
And so now we're starting to see, once we define who that pseudonym belongs to, that a lot of these operations were actually coming from the top, Jim. And if they were coming from the top, they were coming from,
well, that's what's striking to me, Larry, is that these people are the organization. I mean, they're not just the officials. They actually are the actors. They're the ones who are conducting the plots, carrying them out, the supervision, the actions required.
Mm-hmm. And when they burn their hands and when they burn their fingers, they bug out, So this is the end here. You can just finish it here.
The compartmentalization and separation is obvious here, not to mention plausible deniability. This report clearly was intended to provide more documented proof that Celia Duran was a whore. Some might argue and speculate that Duran was an agent who used sex as a means of obtaining information. This, however, has never been proven. The inclusion of the phrase of Lee Harvey Oswald fame was supported to insert LIRING 3's allegations covered in the original document which started this post. It's obvious that when Scott, TI Mexico City Chief Station, refused to stick out his neck for the agency in support of the Duran-Oswald alleged affair, refusing to sign this report, even in the name of his pseudonym, Wilford C. Curtis.
That's it. Now I just briefly here, let me see if I can show you guys what I have here. Okay, and here we go. I want to go here. Here we go. Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Okay, this is Atlee Phillips' history sheet for the CIA. As you can see, from 1942-43, he was a self-employed and he was an actor. Obviously, this acting thing is something that's going to come in very handy for him later on when he's dealing with all these.
Well, are we looking at the same thing, Larry? I'm seeing something beginning. This station believes that the LIRING 3 operation has reached a critical point. Is that what you're talking about?
Okay, resume. Okay, here we go. No, okay.
That's right. I thought you were talking about something else.
Okay, here we go. Can you see that?
It's the same thing.
It's still a same.
You don't see David Atlee Phillips here?
No, not yet. No. You better scroll down, Larry.
Okay. Well, I'm at the, okay, let me get out of here.
Yeah, you want me to pause?
Okay, here. Okay, now you can see that?
Not yet.
It takes a second to come up.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah. Now we got it.
Okay. This is his history with the CIA on a year-to-year basis. As you can see, 1942 to 48, self-employed actor. 43 to 45, military service, U.S. Air Force. 4950,
Staff sergeant.
Yeah. Went to college.
Went to William and Mary and TCU.
Mm-hmm.
TCU, by the way, had a really good football team this year.
Yeah. And then in 1948, he's at the University of Chile, where he's in Spanish, learning Spanish. This is his entire profile. Now, I want to show you here, September 67, December 1968. Ops officer, DDP meant, oh my God, it was from the top, very top of the CIA. In fact, Helms was DDP. And we go here, Cuban Ops Group, okay? Cuban Ops Group. September 67 and December 68. Cuban Ops Group. That's what he was doing, and it says here he was doing it from headquarters. However, we know that he was traveling all over the place. This Raul was traveling back and forth, and he would go back to Mexico, and then he'd go to Canada, Montreal, like I said before. But the dates here coincide with LIRING 3, with the LIRING 3 operation. And so the inference here could obviously be that this Raul could be, and I'm not saying it outright, could be David Atlee Phillips. And if that is the case, then it's a totally new ball game here, Jim. And again, I want to emphasize here, what he was doing. Cuban Ops Group. And that's exactly what the LIRING 3 operation was all about. Okay, assembling, all these moles and agents to go into Cuba and throughout Central and South America and do, all these operations for the CIA. So Cuban Ops Group, I think, is very revealing here, and also the dates. And one of our correspondents from overseas suggested that this September 67 and December 1968 are significant because that's when Jim Garrison started his investigation. So when they start to insert LIRING 3 into the Sylvia Duran affair, it might have been in reaction to what Garrison was doing. This is just, something, new information, and trying to tie things together. And like I said, it was suggested, by one of our people, and I'm just throwing that out there. And that ends the session here.
Well, it does appear to you that LIRING 3 was indeed David Atlee Phillips, or Roten.
And it's possible. It's possible. I'm not saying, I'm just saying that a lot of the circumstantial evidence and a lot of the redactions, if you look at these documents, and if you sort of like place his name in there, it sort of like falls, in
place.
Yeah. It's sort of like works. So, who knows? But the point of all this exercise here was with LIRING 3 is A, that it was a very important operation, and B, that now that we have at least 1,000 pages of information, newly released information on LIRING 3 and the whole LIRING operation, it's probably going to take this, in other directions that we have never seen before.
Well, you see how up close and personal they are about manipulating specific people, taking very specific acts and all that. Very, very hands-on, very detailed, very specific.
Yes, and this is exactly what the government has been telling us over many years. Oh, we can't release these documents because it's going to show means and methods. What the heck is all this? That we've seen here today. I mean, up close and personal, very detailed. If you look at some of LIRING 3's reports in Spanish, they're like on an hour by hour basis. That's how detailed they are, and it's just mind-boggling, that the U.S. government would spend, so much money on this type of operation to get intelligence out of Cuba and to infiltrate, all these groups, Central American groups that were threatening and with following in the Cuban Revolution. And that Che Guevara, that's what he was doing. He was going to Bolivia. He was starting, extend the reach of the Castro influence in the revolution. So that's why this is so relevant. And
he was quite a romantic figure, Che Guevara.
Oh yeah,
really an inspiring revolutionary. I mean, he was really terrific.
Yeah.
So when David Sanchez Morales was there when he was killed, he cut off his head and kicked it about 100 feet away, so everyone would know the guy wasn't going to come back.
You got it. All right, fellas, any last words there before we go?
No, great, Gary. Thanks.
All right, JFK Show 179. Great work, Larry, once again. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
In Dallas, Texas, 3 shots were fired at President Kennedy's motorcade.
That's what we were told. Most Americans never believed Lee Oswald was the lone gunman, for excellent reasons. In fact, there were at least 6 shooters who fired from 8 to 10 shots or more who are identified here. We have Finally, the solution to the greatest murder mystery in history, laid out for the world to see, proof after proof after proof. Photos were faked, the body was changed, x-rays were altered, the home movies were fixed. 15 experts contribute to a 529-page book with 1,037 photos and diagrams in black and white and color.
Hi, this is Gary King. If you'd like JFK, who, how, and why, and would like to support the new JFK show, then go to patriotradiobooks.com. That's patriotradiobooks.com.